Hello everyone, Cordell here, and today I have a special guest, Jay Lush. We're going to be doing a special movie review for this movie's 20th anniversary, and I'm hoping you guys will enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get into it. 20 years ago, Disney released a movie that was 12 years in the making, of $127.5 million US budget, and even Happy Meal toys to go along with it. This movie, unfortunately, pushed the company into what many fans consider Disney's second dark age, and that movie was Dinosaur. Today we're here to discuss where it all went wrong. One issue is that Disney already had a TV show called Disney Dinosaurs. Many concept artists were hired for this project, and their work was stunning, yet unfortunately the concept art was mostly ignored when it came to the final product.
The plot of the movie is lacking to say the least. The movie opens up with a view from inside an egg. After some pointless narration, we get to see a valley full of dinosaurs. Within minutes, a Carnotaurus attacks. The egg that was previously mentioned is transported by various creatures until finally it lands on a tree among some lemurs. The egg hatches, and after some arguing and urinating, the lemurs decide to raise the dinosaur as their own. We then see a scene of the lemurs and the dinosaur, who's now an adult named Aladar, playing together. Soon after that, there's a strange scene I can only describe as a mating ritual, in which we discover that Zinni is a perv. He fails to find a mate, and so does Aladar. Pleo expresses significant concern over Aladar's being single. Immediately after, meteors strike, leading to Aladar and 4 of the lemurs to leave the island. They bump into a large herd of dinosaurs, who are heading to the nesting ground. They decide to join them and quickly realize that the leaders, Crone and Bruton, are complete assholes. Unfortunately, due to Pleo's concern for his love life, Aladar develops a crush for Crone's sister, Nera. Aladar gangs up with some older members of the herd, Ema, Baleen, and Earl, which they decided to spell U-R-L. About 20 minutes of the movie is wasted on showing the herd wandering through the desert. After some struggle, they find water. Shortly after, Bruton and a scout get attacked by a Carnotaur. Bruton returns, which pisses off Crone. Aladar tries to tell the herd to slow down, and Crone threatens to kill him.
If you ever interfere again, I'll kill you.
Aladar returns to the elderly gang, and they get separated from the herd. After being separated, they walk into a cave. An injured Bruton enters the cave and has a change of heart, sacrificing himself to save Aladar and his friends. At the end of the cave, they knock down a wall and discover the nesting ground is on the other side. Aladar goes back to retrieve the rest of the herd, which results in Crone being killed by a Carnotaur. Aladar and the rest of the herd return to the nesting ground, and him and Nera hatch an egg together. We get more pointless narration, and the movie ends.
I would like to make a point before you get on to this.
Yeah.
There is literally so little plot that we got through that way faster than I thought we would.
Yeah, you can keep that in.
I'm going to.
You can keep it. We got through that in a minute. There's no plot in this movie. One of the biggest issues is the fact that the movie doesn't have much of a plot. And with a little research, I discovered that much of the plot was actually cut. One of the things that was cut was another iguanodon called Old Gautama, who discovered the nesting grounds originally. Another cut was Aladar's grandparents and their deaths. Without these cuts, the movie might have had a better plot. There was an entire river crossing scene that was cut as well. You can fix that. The sound effects in this movie are incredibly strange. For the lemur sound, they decided to use foxes, capuchin monkeys, and penguins instead of lemurs. And then there's this sound. The movie was filmed in a grand total of 13 locations in North America alone, 3 in South America, 1 in Australia, 1 in Asia, a total of 18 filming locations. They also destroyed a part of a forest in the making of this film. There was only one person in charge of quality control for Dinosaur, and despite how awful and bland the story is, only 4 people wrote it.
In the beginning of the film, we can see shadows of dinosaurs from the inside of Aladar's egg. This is impossible. The Carnotaurus is far too big throughout the movie. It dwarfs the other dinosaurs. But the best example of this is in the opening, where it takes down a Pachyrhinosaurus, an animal that reaches about 26 feet or 8 meters and 4 tons. And the Carnotaurus shakes it around like a doll, where a real Carnotaurus reached 24.6 to 29.5 feet, which is 7.9 to 9 meters. Aladar's mother also just disappears. Something that really sucks in this movie is how much better the Carnotaurus looks than everything else. Many of the dinosaurs in this movie are from different times and places. Iguanodon is from Europe 126 to 122 million years ago. Carnotaurus is from South America 72 to 69.9 million years ago. Pachyrhinosaurus is from North America 73 to 69 million years ago, depending on the species. Oviraptor is from Asia 89.8 to 70.6 million years ago. Brachiosaurus is from North America 154 to 153 million years ago. And Styracosaurus is from North America 75.5 to 75 million years ago. Aladar in this movie is given lips to make the lip syncing better and more expressive. However, iguanodons had a beak from their mouth. There should not be grass in this movie. Grass as we know it came into existence around 55 million years ago. 10 million years after the dinosaurs died out. There would likely have been ancestors of grass around during the late Cretaceous, however I don't know how widespread. Next up is a continuity error. In the intro, we can see dozens and dozens of brachiosaurs. And then later, farther along, when Aladar is grown up, Baleen is the last one. As well, in the intro, we see a young Parasaurolophus chasing a flying lizard that's supposedly Longisquama. I hope I pronounced that right. Which we know could not fly or glide, as they didn't have wings, but rather a large, weird sail on their back. And the Carnotaurus' arms are surprisingly actually too big. They're very much like a Tyrannosaurus' arms in the movie. However, in real life, their arms and hands were much smaller and much more useless. The Oviraptor is, of course, featherless when this animal was likely feathered. In the 5 minutes it takes for Aladar's egg to reach the lemurs, he should have died no less than 5 times. Obviously, dinosaurs and monkeys didn't exist at the same time. Even worse, the lemurs probably would have just eaten the egg. On that note, Madagascar was inhabited by dinosaurs, including a carnivorous dinosaur called Majungasaurus around 70 to 66 million years ago. I'm also going to note how terrible the names are in this movie. The monkeys are named Zinni, Yar, Pleo, and Siri. On that note, the monkey is just butt shake.
I'm just going to interrupt to say that Zinni, we're going to refer to him as Perv. You'll see why. Shortly after birth, Aladar pees. However, it's likely that dinosaurs didn't pee, much like modern birds and reptiles. Pleo's concerns about Aladar's love life and how perverted Zinni is really bothers me on top of that. Of course, they did have to make the perv look different, too. He's light brown.
Yeah.
Everyone else is gray.
As an adult, Aladar's head shape isn't very much like an actual iguanodon's skull. On that note, his teeth are absolutely awful. A real iguanodon's jaws are packed with teeth for grinding food, and Aladar's teeth are just a strange row that doesn't even look like individual teeth. The sounds and the blank expressions in the movie are absolutely appalling as well. During the mating ritual, Yar and Pleo give completely opposite and contradictory advice. Now, I don't know if the asteroid in this movie is supposed to be the one that killed out the dinosaurs, but if it is that asteroid, that particular asteroid hit near Mexico, not Madagascar.
I personally hope it was that asteroid.
The slow-mo when Aladar is swimming is atrocious. Once they are in the water, the lemurs seem to be floating on this weird raft instead of a log as you'd expect them to be. And as I said, there's some random slow-mo that looks absolutely awful. And once Aladar is on the land, but still wet, he looks way worse than he usually does.
The movie has a bit of an issue with slow-mo. It does it 3 or 4 times, and each time looks worse than the last.
Yep. After the meteor, the birds fly towards the destruction. And on that note, as we see the birds flying overhead, why would they even be flying in such awful conditions? Knowing birds, they would probably just land and wait it out. There's an attempted jump scare with the velociraptors, and it just sucked. And of course, more on the Velociraptors. It's nowhere stated in the movie that they're actually Velociraptors, so I just assume they're some sort of dromaeosaurid. But after watching the behind the scenes, they are called a Velociraptor, making them far too big to be actual Velociraptors, and of course, lacking feathers. And then, this thing named Earl, U-R-L, that's supposed to be an Ankylosaurus. I apologize to the species and anyone that likes it, as it looks awful and acts like a dog for some reason.
I really thought they were being cute and appealing to the children with that.
Oh my. Next up we have Crone. Crone, he has this weird saggy neck, and to make it worse, the animators rigged it up so that they could make it wiggle and sag and move on purpose. And of course, what is up with Crone's and Bruton's faces, their noses in particular? And then, why does the sun just fade into existence? And of course, Zinni is a perv.
Hey, hey, hey. There's your girlfriend.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about. Nira. Scaly skin, yellow eyes, big ankles.
Yeah, I made a real impression on her.
What you need is a little help from the love monkey.
The love monkey?
Ow, baby! Ow!
He is.
Next up we have Aldar's back. As you can see, it's lined with these strange spines, and I don't think there's much evidence for this. And for some reason, this pond is dried up. I have no idea why, because it's never explained why. Also, there are no plants, living or dead, around it. And on that note, how did the water get underneath the mud? And again, Zinni is a perv, and there is more awful slow-mo. The perspective in this movie is awful. I also have to mention that Nira and Aladar look almost identical, aside from their colors and the fact that Nira has a blush. Aladar's crush Nira looks way too thin. Certainly, she looks feminine, but she's just way too thin, looking almost malnourished and maybe even dehydrated.
About Nira's looks, on the behind the scenes, Disney, they were so thirsty for her. They were just going on about how they wanted her to look graceful and feminine and sexy, didn't they?
It was disturbing.
It was disturbing.
It was actually disturbing how they were going on about Nira being sexy and sensual, and just, it was disturbing. And then there's the fact that they all know that Carnotauruses are called Carnotaurus, but they don't know the name of any of the other dinosaurs, and that's really quite irritating. Even more irritating is that there are 5 or more villains in this movie, and only 2 or 3 songs during the whole thing. About the villains, it isn't even easy to tell when one of the Carnotaurs dies.
On that note, I don't know if the one in the beginning is the same as the other 2.
That's never answered.
That's why I estimated at 5. Because there's them and the Velociraptors.
Yeah.
Then Crone and Bruton.
Crone and Bruton.
There's a lot of villains.
There are. Another major annoyance is the fact that Aladar always thinks it's time for a motivational speech, and the fact that any injury that he sustains heals within minutes, except near the end of the movie when he has blood around his eye and his lip, despite not being hit there in that area at any point in the movie. A few more visual issues include the scale, which consistently changes, the fact that the herd looks like plastic dinosaurs afar, the night scenes being way too dark. Why does he even bother to chase the rock in the cave scene? I doubt the Carnotaurus would have even seen them if he wasn't where he was. The herd randomly gets smaller and then bigger again later on. And then, when they're in the cave, Aladar suggests going back, but then suddenly decides he just wants to die.
Seeing this motivational speech guy just shut down and suddenly become suicidal, I almost cried laughing at it.
And then, finally Aladar, his plot armor thins and he gets injured, and he gets a limp after a fight with Crone. And then a few seconds later, it goes away. Aladar then convinces the herd to stand up to the Carnotaur, but why didn't they think to do something like this before? I also noticed that this movie thinks that killing its villains are the only way to resolve things. Both Eldar and Nira survive the same hit from the Carnotaur that kills Crone, and Nira even survives being stepped on as well. There's some more random slow-mo as Crone and the Carnotaur falls off a cliff. I've been thinking about the nesting grounds. If it's so safe, why is there a Carnotaur in there in the first place, in the intro? The fact that they tried to make the pissing sentimental is infuriating. Again, dinosaurs didn't pee.
And they try to make us emotional about it.
They tried to make us emotional about it, and then, of course, Denny is a perv!
Any of you ladies up for a game of monkey in the middle? Easy now, easy, hey!
Couldn't end the movie without it.
And that concludes our thoughts on this absolute masterpiece.
Beautiful film.
I'm wondering though, have any of you seen this movie, whether it be as a child or now that, you know, it's quite some time after it came out, and how you feel about it?
I've been wondering if any of you had the Happy Meal toys. I know I did, and I see a lot of posts about people talking about the little hand puppets and being nostalgic about it, but I almost wonder if you realize how much the movie sucks.
It really did suck.
Yes.
So if you want to check out this movie, it is on Disney Plus, and you probably find it on other sites if you feel like you want to do that.
Yeah, the bulk of it is on YouTube.
Yeah. You really can find most of it on YouTube, but of course, don't pirate!
Don't pirate.
Alright guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Quite a bit of effort went into it. So please do like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.